Hello and welcome to This Is Ibrox on Tuesday night, after what was quite a hectic night last night, Shug. Just going to ask you, first of all, how are we? I've not seen you in a while.
Yeah, all good, mate. Been enjoying all the transfer gossip and all that, but looking forward to get back into the game tomorrow.
Aye, it feels strange because we've had that game on Sunday and then Thursday. There's been quite a lot of games to watch on the telly rather than going actually along to the games. If you're like myself and on a MyJares membership that's just below the cuff of actually getting tickets for these games. We'll start off with what was probably quite interesting news. Obviously, we were all expecting the news that was coming through of a signing being made, given all the differences that we had heard. First of all, everybody wanted Mashrunise, everybody wanted Thomas Muller. Instead, we ended up with Ryan Nadiri. Shug, what's your feelings about the signing? How are we feeling about getting another striker in, first of all, I suppose?
I mean, I think we badly needed another striker, didn't we? We all kind of said we can't go through this window, without bringing in. It was quite clear at the weekend what was missing. I can't say I know a lot about this guy. I think Kilmarnock group put it quite well. It's either going to be a brilliant piece of business or we're going to think, what are we doing, paying that money to a second division German team? I think summed it up nicely. But, I mean, just watching these kind of clips, he looks the kind of profile we should be looking for. So I'm quite excited to see how he does, and I do prefer that to a short-term loan. I think there is more sense in actually investing in guys like this, and hopefully he comes in, does well, and then makes us a lot of money further down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I had touched on it. I don't know what's happening, Shug. I don't know if when I'm talking it's coming through your microphone, but there seems to be a bit of kind of an echo. Or it might be mine. No, so I had looked a few weeks back when the prospect had came through for Ryan Nadiri, and the one thing that stood out was, after having watched about 10 of the Hansa Rostock highlight videos, which was mind-numbing to say the least. The fans put on a good show, but apart from that, no, the football wasn't great. The one thing that I noticed was the stats had came out saying that in 17 games he'd scored, I think it was 7 or 8 goals, and he'd also assisted 5 times, which was quite interesting because he's not a player that we're looking for in terms of an out-and-out goal scorer. He looks to be someone that's a bit of an all-rounder. And when I'd watched the games before, somebody had said to me, "Oh, who's he like? Is he like a Morelos? Is he like this?" And the player that I had said was, if you've ever seen Walter Maida play for Newcastle, he looks quite similar to him. And then when Danny Rule came out in the press conference today and said that, that's what I had put on Twitter. I was like, I feel vindicated, because all the time I'd said that's what he looks like. It might just be the fact that he wears his socks halfway down his shins, but no, I think you're right in what you're saying. Having the loan signing doesn't really make sense, because when you've got a loan player, you never really know if their head's fully in it or whether or not they're thinking, I'm impressing the team to then go back and get a move at a bigger club, or even just to kick on at the club. So to have him here permanent, what do you make about the signing fee? £5.5 million for a player in the third tier in Bundesliga.
I mean, it's a lot of money. There's no doubt about that, and it's obviously we've paid more than we thought we would to get him in. So, which again probably indicates how highly the club rates him. I think one thing is, it keeps getting said how hard the window it is, and you pretty much seen that with how many deals were like hanging in the balance on the last day. So nobody's wanting to give away, even at the German second division, nobody's wanting to give away their top player in January. So we did have to pay a bit more. But it does make sense in some ways, because if you're going to pay 3 million for him, or 3.5 or whatever it was in the summer, and then you go and pay a loan fee for somebody short term, probably might as well just pay that fee up front and get him in. So it's a lot of money, but at the end of the day, we were in a position where, because of, we've not done well in the summer, we were desperate for a striker, and had to pay a wee bit extra to try and rectify that. So again, it seems like a bit of a gamble for somebody from that division, but let's see how he does. We were demanding a striker, and the club went and pulled out stops to get a deal done. So got to hope now he'll contribute well.
Aye. You're not saying anything that any fans who's sitting watching this is going to agree with. They just put up the post there for Hugo Bear. I hope he scores goals. That's really all we're looking for, isn't it? We're not looking for someone to come and be an all-rounder and he's a good link-up player and he does this and he does that. We're looking for someone who can come in and first and foremost bury the ball and get it in the back of the net. Yes, somebody else has said there, it's Hugo Bear again, has came out and said it's a long-term contract. I think we're signed him for 5 years. I don't know the term of the deal, but I think it is in that area. I think that's one of the reasons that we wanted to get the deal done. Was the other part of it, which is obviously more in favour of Hansa Rostock, is that we believe that the sell-on fee will be in the 20 to 25% category, which is to be expected. This is the norm nowadays. But it does mean that whatever we are going to sell him on for, we're going to have to add a wee bit of cheddar onto that to make sure that we make as much as we possibly can. Just in general, Shug, I was just going to talk to you about, we've signed 4 players this window. That puts us now into, just like the title of tonight's podcast is, Rangers Splash the Cash. That means that we are, as it stands, I believe, we are the highest spending club in one season in the Scottish Premier League now in history. The total is that we spent £43.4 million across the 2 transfer windows. Are you excited about the 4 signings that have came in, Shug, overall? Just not disregard the summer, because that's a write-off, but the 4 new ones, are you excited?
Yeah, I'm. Now, ultimately, you've touched on it. We should be at a much better position for spending all that money over the summer, and but it is what it is. It's in the past now. We've just got to go and correct that. I kind of said before that rather than trying to fix everything in one window, we had to do it kind of bit by bit. There was no way we were going to bring in 8 players who were all going to hit the ground running and be fantastic, and that was all our problems fixed in this window. So if we could get 3 or 4 bits of quality that then we can build on from there, then that's a positive step. So I think on paper it looks like a good window. I think again what kind of makes it a wee bit negative is, in a way, because we've done our business so early, people want more and more and more. Whereas if Scott Olsen or Chikwani had signed on the last day, we probably would have been more excited and more, you know what I mean? If you do the business early, you're probably expecting more and more to happen throughout the month. So but I think 4 players who ultimately should improve the quality in the squad that you can get quite excited about. I think it's been, as I said, on paper, you're never really going to know until we see these guys, but on paper it looks a decent enough window and one we can get quite excited about.
I think if, for example, when me and Ian went along to the Annan Athletic game and we saw the 2 signings come out, and then it was, there's going to be a third, and there's a lot of ramp up in the stadium because everybody expected Scott Olsen to come and join the team. I think at that point you thought we're really going to kick on here and maybe we will buy some other players. So to leave it so late, I don't think that's Danny Rill's wishes. I think there was a lot that was in the balance. I think there was a lot of players who were looking to leave. I think there was a lot of players that were maybe looking to get in on loan deals that just didn't quite make it for whatever reason. But what do you think about the level of spending, right? So there's a kind of mix just now on X that you see, is that those who are a bit more negative are thinking, what a waste of resources that they could have spent in other areas. You look at signings like Chermite, for example, obviously not necessarily been a bad signing as to come in and actually be a player, but in terms of the value of the money that was spent, if you took out the equation of how much money we actually spent for him, he's not done a bad job, but he's not done an £11 million job. Is it that the board have made a statement of intent, Shug, or have we wasted a lot of resources?
I think both can be true, to be honest with you. I think that if you look at the summer window, there's definitely been wasted resources, and Danny Rowe's got the best of what he could do. But as I said, when you're spending that level of money, we should be at a much higher level than we are at right now. We should have spent a lot more wisely. And again, during the summer, we probably tried to do far too much in a short space of time and got far too many wrong. I think the board, certainly it was a signal intent in this window that they're committed to fixing things, and they're kind of see where they went wrong, and they now want to get behind Danny Rowe and support him the best they can. I think we did spend a good bit of money this window without probably going overboard. And as I said, I think we got the balance right. I don't think we went for any panic buys or quick fixes. All of them are really built towards what they can give to the squad, and there was no short-term loans. I know Scott Olsen was a loan, but that's where an option to buy at the end of it. There was no thrown money just at a free agent who's coming to the end of his career, which we're pretty famous for, to be honest with you. That was all geared on, right, let's spend some money on building a squad of guys. And guys like Chikwani, I think he's pretty much been brought in, you would imagine, potentially for the replacement of Raskin. So I feel like there's forward planning done. I feel like they're now, getting investments right and, doing the right things for the club. So I think it was a bit of a statement of intent that we're committed to fixing this, and it gives me a bit of encouragement that this summer we'll go again and we'll spend a lot better.
I think you're right. I think the comment that you'd made, I heard you actually saying that on one of the podcasts with JB, is that we shouldn't look at it as a short-term fix. Like the idea that we've got this magic wand that's just we're going to bring in a 20-goal striker. Those days are kind of numbered, because even if we had brought in the players that everybody was crying out for, your Mashronises, who seemed like a bit of a tap-in given the price tag, you look at years gone by and you wouldn't have went and spent any sort of money on Michael Higdon or Kevin Van Veen, who were battering in goals, because it doesn't necessarily mean that they always come in and do it at your club. But the one with the Mashronise one just seems like a bit of a missed opportunity more than anything. But to be fair, we wanted a striker. We went and got a striker. We wanted a left back. We needed a left back. Migoma can't play forever. We needed someone to sit in that middle of the park. Obviously, you spoke about Chukwani. Is he a replacement for Barron in terms of until he can get fit? I don't quite know, because they seem to play in very different styles of play. And then obviously we needed somebody else in that attacking third who could also pick up goals, which is where Andreas Skov-Olsen is supposed to chip in there. Would you have wanted to see any other positions covered, Shug? Like, few people there. Big Phil is put in there, still short of a midfield playmaker. I can't disagree with that. Is there anywhere else that you would have liked to see? Do you agree with Big Phil, or is there something else missing?
Yeah, I probably agree. I think we're badly missing a number 6, the player that Joe Rothwell was meant to be, that kind of takes the ball off the centre backs and dictates play, a sort of Stephen Davis type midfielder, which they're obviously hard to come by. I would have loved to have seen that. I would have loved to have seen another centre back come in, but I think we've actually been doing all right. The stats will tell you we're not conceding a lot of goals, so I think we can get by what we've got to the end of the season, and then we'll probably bring someone in then. And my other one, I know you're getting greedy here, but I feel like Finlay Curtis could have still contributed, and I was surprised at letting him go. We didn't bring in another wide option. I definitely think we could have used him at the weekend. I get the benefit of sending him out on loan and getting him plenty of game time, but I just feel as if he could have contributed in this second half of the season more than some of the guys that are on the bench right now. So I was pretty surprised that we let him go and another winger didn't come in. Again, you'd be selfish saying you wanted another 3 players on top of it, but I just think we're still maybe lacking a wee bit in that final third.
I think you're spot on with the Finlay Curtis one. For me, I get the argument. If Danny Rule doesn't want to play him, send him out on loan, get him minutes. 100% agree with that. I just can't see how you can't fit him into the team. I think if we're going to be running on for Scottish Cup, this was an absolute shit-in for him to play on Sunday. he would have got full 90 minutes. And if Ant-Man doesn't play this season, it's not through the want of someone else. Like, we shouldn't be opening doors for Ant-Man to play well when you've got someone who's currently better than him, who's came through the youth academy. You look at Joe Rothwell, he came in, didn't really do so well, and he's been shipped off. Ant-Man he maybe sees something in Ant-Man that he thinks actually if we give him minutes, maybe he will come good. I know he had that kind of dodgy injury just as he started, which probably didn't help him. But the Finlay Curtis one is a good segue into the next question I was going to ask you, Shug. So, over the course of the winter break, pardon me, we had players leaving the club. So, Oscar Cortez left, didn't really leave because he was already away, but obviously came back and went back out with a loan to buy option, which obviously suited the club. Joe Rothwell's away, you touched on that. Lyle Cameron's away out on loan. Finlay Curtis, Clinton Nsiala, Kieran Dowell, and today, only a couple of hours ago, we got the green light to say that Danilo was going to be away as well. Do we now have a position, Shug, where you think that we've got a strong enough squad that could actually go on and compete and win the league, like in terms of squad depth?
I think, as I said, there's still a couple of areas where I'd want to improve, but in terms of squad depth, it is quite a big squad that we're dealing with. Out of those guys that have left, the only one I think we'll really miss is, not really miss, but potentially could have made an impact, was Finlay Curtis. Out of them, a lot of people making an argument for Lyle Cameron. I did think it was right for him to go out on loan. I just think it's clear he's not really forced his way in. Loan will possibly do him good. We've not gave anybody away that I think contributes a lot to that first team. So in that sense, I'd say probably is, and it's quite good, to just now have a settled squad where you can say this won't change until the end of the season. So you've got to, he knows what players he's got to work with. There's still a bit of deadwood in the squad. I know I was talking Matondo potentially having his contract ended. And there's a few others we've got, it's big numbers in some areas and not a lot of quality there. But I think it's the best we really could have hoped that he'd shaped this squad up from what he's had from the start of the season.
I think there's been a few posts being put on by other journalists that have been commenting on X, and one of the things that seems to be quite a popular image amongst the fans is the layout of the squad. I don't know if you've seen it, Shug, but it's just a picture of a pitch with each player in each position, kind of ranking it down. And what seems to stand out more than anything is that we now have a settled 2 players for every position, and each of the players that can come in, you feel quite comfortable that you could be, if one wasn't able, the other one could come in and do just as good a shift. And I don't think we've seen that at Rangers now for a good few seasons, in that, albeit you might favour one over the other in terms of you might not want Bajrami to play every single week, but if, for example, if we're playing on Sunday and you're looking to rest players, he can come in and still do a shift. Maybe not as good a shift, but he can still come in and do a shift in that position. And that's what I was getting at. It was the idea of, it's not so much about having a massive squad, but it's having a squad that you can actually go and rely on. And I think now that we're in a position where when you see a starting lineup, we're not often shocked by it. I think the last one was on Sunday when we saw Dujon Sterling just out the cold, like Undertaker coming out the casket, just reviving himself to come in at right back. Nobody'd seen light a day of him for months, and then here he is back on the scene. With that in mind, then, we're playing Kilmarnock tomorrow night. Kilmarnock seem to have somewhat rejuvenated under Neil McCann and Billy Dodds. What are you looking to see for tomorrow night? What would your starting lineup be?
I think I don't think it'll be too different from what we've seen recently. I think probably Sterling keeps his place at right back. I think he'll bring Tav back in at the weekend. I think it's going to be, neither of them can play every game to the end of the season. Sterling, he's athletic enough, but he keeps getting injured. Tav, we're quite close, and he's not got the legs. Sterling probably stays at right back. I think your back 4 stays the same, to be honest with you. Midfield, I think he might go Raskin, Diomande, and I think he'll stick with Asgard. He's trying to play him into form, which I thought he was really disappointing at the weekend. And then I think he'll go Moore, Chermiti, and Olsen. Obviously, Chikwani could come into that midfield for Raskin, but I think Diomande will come back into the midfield. I don't think we can play Raskin, Diomande, and Chikwani. I think we're probably going to see like an Asgard come in there. I think Gassama might drop out, but again, I'd expect Kilmarnock to be really organised. I think they'll try and do what Dundee done against us, and try and limit our chances. I'm just looking for us to play with a bit more energy, get a bit more attacking emphasis. Like just the last 2 games, it's been so slow from the start, and before you know it, you've gave up, a full half where you've not really created anything. So I think we need to see something. We need to see creating chances. We need to see a bit more urgency in our play. But I'm confident we'll get the result.
I don't think we could possibly play with less energy, Shug, to be honest. Some of the performances we've put in have been dire, and I know this is the thing is when Danny Rule came in and he took over for Russell Martin, he said it's not about a style of play, it's about winning games. This is what I want to do. This is the first chance he's had to bring in his own men to get settled into a squad. So we need to now see what is the next step. What's the trajectory here for players to kick on and play in a Danny Rule tactic in a formation that he feels comfortable with? I don't think we're far away from what Danny Rule is wanting in terms of what we could potentially see after the summer when he's had a full pre-season to get the players in. I don't think tactically it's going to be all that different. I think what we might see is that certain players in those positions will perform different roles. So, for example, if you look at the Asgard position, it might be that he's playing him there because it suits just now having it more structured than having him there. Whereas if you had somebody who was a bit more technical on the ball, would you give him more of a free role just to kind of drift and go out wide? And you heard him at the start of the season. He had said, not so much the start of the season, but the start of his tenure was that Asgard was playing out on the left, kept drifting out to the left, and then it closed off his body. So he's told him now to move out to the right, or vice versa. I can't remember. But it was basically small changes that would have made a difference to him. The last time we played Kilmarnock Shug, we won away 3-0. Miowski scored the double. Mikey Moore got the other. It says, I've wrote out a list here of players that Kelly have signed. Half of them, good luck to the guy who's going to have to announce them tomorrow night, because we've got Tushbola, who's obviously just joined, who was at the club beforehand, and he's came back. I think this is his 3rd time at Kilmarnock. Joe Hugo, who's joined from Manchester United. Curtis, obviously, who can't play. And then the last, there's 2 other ones that I'm not even going to try and pronounce. But the one that I was going to ask you about was, we've had a bit of a hand recently, Shug, playing Kilmarnock, and that the goalkeeper was as well sitting with his hands tied behind his back because he was absolutely hopeless. They've brought in Kel Roos. I don't know if you remember him for years gone by. I think he was with Aberdeen.
Yep.
He's joined now, I believe, from Notts County. I imagine he goes straight in. Given the fact that we're not creating a lot of chances, Shug, and they've brought in a goalkeeper, I'm going to press you here. What about a prediction?
Well, first of all, I'm predicting Tom Miller absolutely butchers a few of those names. So I'm looking forward to the crux of those. I think it'll be absolute cinema for Tom Miller there. I'm going to go quite optimistic. I think I'm going to go 3-0 Rangers. Again, I just think we'll kick into life a wee bit and we'll create a little bit more. And I don't want to jinx the keeper because I think he's had a couple of howlers recently. So if I slaughter him, he's probably going to have an absolute blinder tomorrow. So I'm not saying that. But I do think we'll have enough. And now a settled squad, as you said, the window's shut, just focus. But I think it's a good opportunity the next 2 games, get guys' confidence. We need to see more from like Asgard. I think he's nowhere near offered enough. There's been wee flashes, he's got the ball in good areas, but these are games where he needs to show what he can do. I hope Olsen, I hope him getting more minutes under his belt, we can start to see the best of him. I think Mikey Moore deserves to come back in a starting place, because I think on Sunday, I think he was probably our only threat. And you need to see Big Chermity start to score goals, at least get in the box. And because now he knows he's got competition, hopefully we see a wee bit of something more lively from our front options anyway. But I'm quite confident I'll go 3-0. But how are you feeling about it?
I'm much the same. To be honest, Shug, because Danny Rill's first game when he came in charge was 3-1 against Kilmarnock, and again, I think Chermity was lucky that night because he ended up punching the ball into the back of the net, and everybody thought Chermity was going to be the next big thing, kick on. And when I say everybody, I mean me, because I was shouting the ball on about him, saying how good he was going to be. From that, then we go on and we play them at Rugby Park, to then go and beat them again 3-0. Obviously, they were on a terrible run there until Neil McCann took over and Kettlewell was in charge. But if you're going to play a team that's going to be quite disciplined and just stay as a kind of low block at the back, then you're right. This is when we do need to see players like Asgard come in and use their ability to break down these defences. And if only we still had Russell Martin in charge, because he was absolutely brilliant at breaking down a low block, apparently. That was the one big selling point he had. Obviously, I'm joking about that. But the one thing that I would like to see is Mikey Moore starting. I think the reason for that is we saw against Hibs how direct he can be. He's so clever at just kind of taking the ball on the front foot and just running. And sometimes it doesn't always work, but at least he gets himself into a position where he can just nick a wee pass through and put it into the striker, or at least take a pop himself. Given the fact that we've got Sunday to almost have a bit of a, I mean, we've been done by Queen's Park in the past, so I'm not saying too much, but given the fact that we've got a little bit of a chance there to rest some of the players, is this now not an option to not play a full starting 11? Like, we can rest players on Sunday. Do you expect us just to go full throttle tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, I expect full throttle. We need to get the points. Goals might come into play. Now, I don't think we've got the right to go into any game saying we need to score X amount of goals. I think we need to just win the games first. But no, we have to go full throttle. On our strongest, what he thinks is our strongest team into that. Yeah, I agree. You probably can give other guys minutes at the weekend. I do that with caution, because Queen's Park's obviously given us the fear after last year. I'd rather we just got the job done as quickly as we can Sunday. But no, I think you go full out, and then you hopefully rest a few boys, and then it's into more big games next week. But we need to start. The last two games have kind of killed our momentum a wee bit, so we need to build that back up again.
Aye, no, I'm 100% with you. I think if we're gonna go in tomorrow night half measures, I think Neil McCann and Billy Dodds will smell blood, and I don't think we can be in a position. Big strong team. I think they could be just as lethal as us from set pieces as we are. The one bit of breaking news, that was going around today was the potential signing of Jeans Heathrow Dahl from Tromsø. Now, we on the podcast have covered this a few times now. I really liked him from watching the videos of him, thought he was a really talented player. So we're looking to see whether or not there's any truth in that the deal could be made for him to then join in the summer. Is there anybody that you would have liked to have seen us buy as an individual before we finish up, Shug? We're looking at how well we spent money and how we spent the cash, but just from your own point of view, is there an individual that you would have wanted us to go out and buy?
I think you mentioned him earlier, Master Winisi. I think he made total sense. I think the boy Just at Motherwell as well looked a really good player, and what they were three good options. So I think that's probably the one thing that I just don't think we obviously haven't done well is picking up players that are right under our nose. And I think those three would have been good options in that window, and I wouldn't have minded to seeing those guys join in. But again, difficult to do. Those Motherwell didn't want to let go of any of them just now, but I feel like there's maybe one still under our noses that we're missing out on.
Would you have taken Watson to Kilmarnock just because we're playing them tomorrow night?
I probably would have. I don't know if he does the kind of same job as a Chikwani's going to do, or that we've already got. But for the cost, for what it would have costed, I think you can get him on a free. This summer his contract goes up as well.
Yeah,
Um,
contract expires in the summer.
I've always liked him. Again, those sort of signings are very, very low risk, aren't they? You sign them, and if it doesn't work out, you've not spent a great deal of money. It's probably the compensation fee that we pay. And look at how Barnes developed. I mean, start of this season, I was probably saying Barnes nowhere near it, and then recently, I know he's injured, but before his injury, he kind of kicked on and really developed there. So I think there's a lot of talented young Scottish players that we turn their nose up, and when it gets to that point, like when their contracts run out, it's a no-brainer. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So he wouldn't be a bad one to pick up.
No, I'm with you on that one, Shug. I think these are your low risk, high reward kind of signings for me. Right, we're going to just leave it there. This obviously just a wee half-hour one tonight on a Tuesday. Apologies for any of the feedback that about us being late, because we had a bit of technical issue and that somebody left me in charge and I'm hopeless with the technology. So apologies to Shug, apologies to anybody that was sitting waiting. We will be live tomorrow night from Ibrox. I think it will be Ian and Tommy, and they will be covering the game straight after. So stick around after the game, go onto YouTube and make sure that you're tuning in so that you can discuss how well we won and Ryan Nadiri's hat-trick, which would have been absolutely brilliant to see. As always, make sure that you're liking and subscribing on YouTube and X, and take any sort of account that you can find, Instagram, TikTok, we're on all of them, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and hopefully we come away with tomorrow night. The boys will be speaking about a lovely 3-0 win at Ibrox. But thank you very much for tonight, and I will see you later on. Cheerio.